everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is Hannah and I am officially now a second-year teacher. So I'm a second-year teacher now. I just finished up my first year of teaching as a kindergarten teacher in Maryland, and actually in about a little over a week, I am moving down to North Carolina, where I'm going to be starting my second year of teaching as a kindergarten teacher again. So today I'm here to share with you some of the things that you can start doing over the summer to prepare for your next year of teaching, whether it's your first year of teaching, or maybe you're moving to a new school like I am, or maybe you're just trying to revamp some things in your classroom. I think it's a great idea to start prepping things in the summer because when you finally get the chance to get into your classroom, the time is going to fly by and it's really not going to be that much time. So it's nice to have things already prepped and thought about and ready to go, so that when you do get into your classroom, you can focus more on organization and, moving furniture and setting things up and looking at all the materials that you now have in front of you that you probably have no idea what they are, and learning about the school's routines and stuff. Like, there are certain things that you can really only do once you're in your classroom, so why not start prepping the things that you can do outside of your classroom so that that's already out of the way. You can definitely start doing the summer before you start teaching, or even if you are someone like me and you like to think really far ahead, you can start doing this way before you actually even begin teaching, and that is building your classroom library. Now, this is not something that you have to do. Some people are very fortunate and they are given a lot of books from their schools, maybe from the past teacher that was in the classroom, or their school just lets them buy books, or whatever the case may be. Some people get a lot of books already from their school. So maybe you don't need to do this, but I know that that's not the case for many schools. I feel like odds are you're not going to be that fortunate when it comes to books in your library. So I personally thought it was really important to build a good classroom library, to have lots of resources, lots of options for my kids to choose from. I wanted to have books for all different interest levels, and so I just really focused a lot on this part of my classroom, and I feel like it's a very important part of your classroom, especially in younger grades when you're trying to, get kids to want to read and to get excited about reading and to have options for all of their reading levels. And I think one good reason to start early on is because books can be expensive. You can start thrift shopping, you can look at yard sales, you can ask for donations. All of these things do take a little bit of time because thrift stores don't always have a good selection of books, and yard sales don't always have books out. So these kinds of things are places you have to go to often, and sometimes you'll find really great things and sometimes it might be a little bit of a miss. So if you start building that classroom library early, or doing it throughout the summer before you start teaching, you'll probably have a lot more better options at cheaper prices, so you're not breaking the bank, but you're still getting really great resources for your library. So going along with that, if you are having a classroom library, I would recommend starting to label your books and label your book bins, or however you're going to sort your library, figuring out the way you want to organize your library. And then if you are someone that is trying to organize it and keep it very organized, I recommend labeling your books. I love for my kids to be very independent with the library, and I want them to know exactly where to put each book back where it goes so that we can find it again if we need it. And so I found that it's really great to label the book to match the book bin, so like putting a number on them that correspond to each other, or a picture, something along the lines that kids can figure out and like match, this book goes here. So I have spent a lot of time labeling every single one of my books so that my kids can do that. Yeah, that can take a lot of time, especially if you have a ton of books. So if that is something you plan on doing, getting that started early on will save you a lot of time when it gets closer to the school year. Okay, the next thing that you can get started on in the summer is numbering student materials, or labeling student materials, however you want to do it. Now, if you're going to label things with kids' names on them, you might not have a class list yet, so that might have to wait, but I have found that it's super easy, super convenient to give kids numbers. I know this is a system that teachers have been using for years. It's just an easy way to do it, and you can reuse things from year to year because all it has is a number on it and not a name. So if you are going to be doing something like this, which I feel like a lot of schools and teachers are going to be doing this year because of the fact that with the coronavirus and everything going around, people are going to have a lot more individual supplies, and kids need to not be touching everyone else's stuff. So if you label everything, it will be very obvious as to who each thing belongs to. So labeling supplies, you can easily slap some numbers on crayons, pencil boxes, pencils, scissors, whatever supplies you have, notebooks, folders, anything that you already have at home that you know that you're going to use and you have a specific plan for, you can go ahead and start labeling them with numbers, or if you do know their names, you can do their names, whatever you want to do, just so that that is already out of the way. Over the summer, you can also start creating labels for your classroom. I'm a big labeler. I like things to be organized. I like to know where everything is. So I started making making labels very early on for everything that I knew I was going to have in my classroom. So basically, as I started collecting things, I would start making labels for them, just so that when it came time, I could slap the label onto a bin or a basket or a bucket or whatever, and then I can put the stuff in there and it was already labeled and good to go. It's really easy to start with school supplies because you're in a school, odds are you're going to have some school supplies in your classroom. So making labels for pencils, like extra pencils, extra crayons, extra glue, post-it notes, index cards, all of that stuff, you can start making labels for them so that when you do get into your classroom and figure out where you want to put them and how you're going to organize them, the label can just go right onto the bin. Something else that I found super helpful, especially being a first-year teacher, is planning my classroom layout over the summer. Now, this kind of depends on if you've been in your classroom or not, if you've seen what you have to work with. If you have not been in your classroom, it might be a little bit hard to plan your layout because you don't really know the furniture or the space that you have. So if you are able to get into your classroom, number one, I would highly recommend taking advantage of that opportunity and doing it. And number two, I would go in and measure different things like my classroom's dimensions, and then I would look at the different furniture that I'm being given, maybe even measure some of my furniture if I'm really feeling like doing all of that, look at the cabinet space, take lots of pictures, and then I would come home with it. And I actually have a video all about how I designed my classroom layout using PowerPoint, so I will link that up here for you guys if you want to check it out. But it's really helpful to kind of envision your space and make a layout idea before you get in there, because furniture can be heavy and sliding it around all over the place is going to really tire you out and also take a lot of your time. And teachers don't get that much time usually in their classrooms to actually set stuff up. So if you already can have a plan, or maybe have multiple plans, it will really save yourself a lot of time and a lot of effort when you actually get in your classroom and start manipulating furniture and stuff. Another thing you can do over the summer is start prepping behavior management. This can be something that takes a lot of time and a lot of thought because you want to have a good plan in place that is sturdy and can really support your class, and so you don't want to just have something like thrown together, because behavior management is a big deal. It's a really big deal. It's managing 20 kids and 20 different behaviors can be hard, so having a solid plan in place is very important. So if you are creating, an economy system and you need to have little bucks or something like that, start creating those. Or if you have a clip chart, you can create that. Or if you have some sort of leveled system, there are so many different plans out there, but a lot of them do require a little bit of prepping and a little bit of thought put into them before the school year starts. Even if you're going to be using some sort of digital platform like Class Dojo, it's still something that you can set up, and then you can also explore it and play around with it over the summer and just kind of figure out, what's going to work and what's not going to work, and what features you want to use and what features you're just not so keen about. So no matter what kind of behavior management system you plan on using, you can definitely get started with at least exploring them early on, and if there's things you need to create for it, you can get that started as well. All right, so the last thing that I think is something you can definitely start prepping over the summer is your classroom routines and expectations. Now, once again, this does depend on your school. Your school might have set expectations and routines that you should know about and that you should get familiar with, which is something you can do over the summer. However, odds are there is going to be some wiggle room for you to come up with what works best for you, and that is definitely something to start looking at, because routines and expectations are so important, and this will literally be the foundation for your entire school year. There's tons of different PD books you can read over the summer to start prepping on this. My favorite, I wish I had it here with me, but I'm moving and I literally can't find anything in my life, but I'll put a picture up here. It's called The First 6 Weeks of School. This helps so much when planning those routines and expectations, and it talks about how to teach them and how much time you should spend on teaching them. It's so helpful. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. But you can do a little bit of reading and PD on this kind of stuff, but then also thinking about what expectations do you want to start teaching and how do you want to teach it. This is just such an important topic, and I feel like the more time you have to prep for it, read up on it and start coming up with plans on how you want this to look in your classroom, the better. All right, you guys, that is all the tips that I had to share with you today about prepping over the summer. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I wish I could show you some more of the things that I have prepped or that I would like to be prepping, but with moving coming up, everything is just packed and I can't find anything. So my actual physical prep of a lot of things is kind of on the back burner right now, but coming up in the next month or so, I will definitely be starting some projects that I can't wait to show you guys and I'm very excited for. So I hope you guys will stick around and look out for those. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.